Overthinking is one of those mental habits that sneaks into our lives quietly, but can quickly take over. It's lying awake at night replaying a conversation, worrying about what you should have said differently, or imagining endless scenarios of what might go wrong tomorrow. At first, it feels like problem solving, but the more you think, the less clarity you have. Psychologists describe overthinking as a loop of repetitive, unproductive thought patterns that create stress rather than solutions. To understand why our minds get stuck this way, we need to look at how the brain handles fear, uncertainty, and control. At the heart of overthinking lies the brain's desire for certainty. Human beings are wired to predict the future and reduce risk. When the outcome of a situation feels unclear, whether it's waiting for exam results, preparing for a presentation, or navigating a new relationship, the mind tries to fill in the blanks, replays events, imagines every possible outcome, and rehearses responses, as if that mental preparation could guarantee safety. This tendency once helped our ancestors survive in dangerous environments, but in modern life, it often leads to mental spirals that provide no real benefit. Another driver of overthinking is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of making the wrong choice. These anxieties push the brain into hyperanalysis. Instead of acting, we retreat into thought, hoping to find the perfect solution. Ironically, this often creates the very problems we're trying to avoid. A student who overthinks a test may waste time doubting themselves rather than answering questions. A professional who overanalyzes an email draft may delay sending it until the opportunity has passed. The more we fear, the more we think. The more we think, the harder it becomes to act. Cognitive distortions also play a huge role. Catastrophizing makes us imagine the worst possible outcome, even when it's unlikely. One small mistake at work suddenly turns into a story of career collapse. Convinces us we know what others are thinking, usually something negative, like they must hate me, or they think I'm incompetent. Then there's the illusion of control, where we believe that if we think long and hard enough, we can somehow control what happens next. These distorted thoughts keep the mind spinning but rarely lead to clarity. Overthinking is also linked to perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Perfectionists analyze every detail, terrified of making a wrong move, while those with imposter syndrome constantly question whether they are good enough. In both cases, the brain uses thought as a shield, as if endless mental rehearsal could protect against judgment or exposure. But instead of building confidence, this endless loop drains energy and fuels self-doubt. From a neurological perspective, overthinking is connected to the default mode network in the brain, which activates when we're not focused on a specific task. This network is essential for creativity and reflection, but when it goes into overdrive, it creates rumination, repetitive thoughts about the past or worry, repetitive thoughts about the future. Both rob us of the present moment. Overthinking can even affect the body. Studies link it to higher cortisol levels, poor sleep, and increased risk of anxiety and depression. What feels like harmless thought is actually stress accumulating in disguise. Why then do we keep overthinking even when we know it's unhelpful? Part of the reason is that it feels productive. The act of thinking gives us the illusion of progress, even if we're only going in circles. Another reason is habit. The more we overthink, the more the brain learns to default to that pattern whenever uncertainty appears. It becomes automatic, like biting nails or checking your phone. Breaking the habit requires awareness and intentional effort. So how do we quiet the noise? Psychology suggests several approaches. One is to shift focus from thinking to doing. Action interrupts rumination. It's even small steps: sending the email, writing the first sentence, making the call break the cycle of analysis paralysis. Mindfulness is another powerful tool. By anchoring attention to the present moment, whether through breathing, meditation, or sensory focus, we pull the mind out of its loops about past and future. Journaling can also help by transferring swirling thoughts onto paper, making them easier to evaluate and release. Setting boundaries with your own thoughts is equally important. This can mean scheduling worry time. During the day, 15 minutes, where you allow yourself to think freely so that the rest of the day is freer for action. It can also mean practicing cognitive reframing, challenging distortions like catastrophizing by asking, "Is this really the worst-case scenario, or am I exaggerating?" Over time, these practices weaken the grip of distorted thoughts and create healthier patterns. Self-compassion is a final, crucial piece. Many people overthink because they hold themselves to impossible standards. By learning to treat ourselves with kindness, we reduce the pressure that fuels overanalysis. Instead of saying, "I can't mess this up," we can say, "It's okay if I'm not perfect. I can learn as I go." This shift doesn't erase uncertainty, but it makes it bearable. In the end, overthinking is less about intelligence and more about how we manage uncertainty. It's a brain trying to protect itself by predicting every possible outcome, but in doing so, it steals peace of mind. By understanding the psychology behind it, we can begin to recognize when thought turns from reflection into rumination and when analysis turns into paralysis. The goal isn't to stop thinking altogether. Thinking is part of being human, but to think in ways that serve us rather than trap us. Overthinking may never vanish completely, but it doesn't have to control our lives. With awareness, action, mindfulness, and compassion, we can step out of the mental loop and return to the present moment. The next time you find yourself spiraling into what-ifs, pause and ask, is this thought helping me move forward or just keeping me stuck? That small question can be the doorway out of endless thought and back into life.